This is TLC to go.
Welcome to the Deep Dive.
And today we're diving into something really core for teaching, especially for you listening in health sciences faculties.
That's right. We're talking about giving effective feedback. You know, in healthcare education, with its high stakes, feedback is, it's more than just a task.
It's absolutely vital. It's how students and residents really develop, how they grow. It's dynamic.
So this deep dive, we're going to unpack some really practical, research-backed insights. These come straight from the University of Tennessee Health Science Center's Teaching and Learning Center. They've got great resources on giving effective feedback.
Yeah, fantastic stuff there.
Our mission, really, is to filter through all this, pull out the most actionable strategies for you, things you can actually use to refine how you give feedback.
And hopefully foster a learning environment that has, a much bigger impact.
Exactly. Think of this as your quick guide to mastering a really critical skill in medical education. So, should we unpack this?
Let's do it. So maybe start with the basics. Why is feedback so important? It seems obvious, maybe?
It does seem obvious, but sometimes we overlook the foundation. There was a quote, Cantillon, back in 2008, described feedback as the cornerstone of effective teaching.
The cornerstone, that's strong language. It's not just optional, it's fundamental for improving performance.
And there's a flip side, too. Endel, way back in '83, warned what happens without it. It's quite stark, actually.
What did he say?
He said, without feedback, mistakes go uncorrected, good performance is not reinforced, and clinical competence is achieved empirically or not at all.
Wow. Empirically or not at all. That basically means learning becomes guesswork, doesn't it?
Pretty much leaving it entirely to chance.
Right.
Which is not ideal in healthcare.
Definitely not. So when we talk about effective feedback, what are we really talking about? It's more than just a quick comment, right?
Yeah, it's comprehensive, it's verbal, it's written.
Mm-hmm. And it has to cover both sides. The positive reinforcement, telling people what they're doing well, what to keep doing.
Crucial.
And the constructive part, guidance on how to get there.
And critically, it needs to offer actual improvement strategies for their knowledge, their skills, even their attitudes.
It's holistic. It's about nurturing the whole professional.
That makes a lot of sense. So, okay, beyond the one-on-one interaction, there's this bigger picture, this environment, this culture.
Yes, the culture piece.
That seems that's a huge factor.
Yeah.
Watling's research in 2014 called it the most dynamic variable for feedback's impact.
That's fascinating. So the environment matters maybe even more than the words themselves sometimes.
Seems like it. So what does that mean practically for faculty? How do you build that culture?
Well, Watling identified 4 key things needed for that positive feedback culture. First, you have to normalize it.
Normalize feedback.
Yeah.
Make it every day.
Exactly. Make it a totally normal, expected part of learning and teaching, not some scary formal event that happens once a term. Think about sports teams, right? Feedback is constant.
Yeah. On the field, in the moment, not just in a performance review. So bake it into the daily routine.
Right. Second, and this is huge, promote trusting teacher-learner relationships.
Trust. Okay, that makes sense. If they don't trust you.
If they think you're just judging them or you don't actually care about their development, they'll just shut down. Feedback won't get through. Trust opens that door.
Absolutely. What's the third element?
Third is having really clear performance goals. Learners need to know what the target is. What does success actually look like? What are they being measured against?
Otherwise, feedback feels kind of random, like trying to hit a target you can't see.
Precisely. Vague goals lead to vague feedback, which isn't helpful.
And the fourth, you mentioned alignment.
Yes, aligning the goals of the learners and the teachers. This is often a hidden disconnect.
How so?
Well, the student might think they're being assessed on, say, their diagnostic reasoning, but maybe the faculty member is really focused on their communication skills in that moment.
So the feedback misses the mark completely because they're not even talking about the same thing.
Exactly. It leads to frustration. So getting everyone on the same page about objectives and expectations makes the feedback much more powerful.
Okay, so culture sets the stage. Normalizing it, building trust, clear goals, and alignment. That creates the fertile ground. So now let's zoom in. We know why it's important. We know the environment needs to be right. But how do we actually give feedback in the moment that works? That leads to change.
Right, the practical stuff. What makes it stick?
Ambrose and colleagues back in 2010, they said feedback works best when it's specific about performance compared to clear criteria. And this is key, help students progress.
And they laid out 7 characteristics, right? Kind of a checklist for effective feedback.
Yeah, the 7 hallmarks. Let's go through them. First one.
First, it has to be based on direct observation.
Why is seeing it yourself so important?
Well, think about it. Giving feedback based on what someone else told you, or a vague memory, it's rarely specific enough. You wouldn't diagnose based on secondhand info alone.
Good point. You need firsthand evidence. Which leads right into number 2.
Which is focused on a specific behavior or skill.
Precision matters.
Hugely. Saying you need to improve your communication is useless.
Right. What does that even mean?
Exactly. Compare that to when you were explaining the procedure, you used a lot of technical jargon the patient didn't seem to follow. Try using simpler terms next time. See the difference.
It's night and day. One is actionable, the other's just vague criticism. Which brings us to number 3. It has to be actionable.
Yes. This might be the most critical one. Does the feedback tell the learner what to do next?
If they walk away thinking, okay, I get it, but now what?
Then the feedback failed. It needs to point towards a next step, a way forward. It should guide improvement, not just state a problem.
A great test for our own feedback. Okay, 4th characteristic. Timely.
The sooner the better, generally.
Why is that?
Because the event is fresh in everyone's mind, the learner can connect the feedback directly to what just happened. Wait too long, details fade, the impact is lost.
Makes sense. Capture the moment. 5th, limited. This one's tricky. We often see lots of things to comment on.
Oh, yeah. The temptation is to unload everything at once, but that's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Right. Information overload.
Exactly. Pick 1 or 2 key things, the most important points. Overwhelm the learner, and they might just tune out completely and not act on any of it. Less is often more.
Good reminder. Okay, number 6. Effective feedback promotes self-assessment.
This is about empowering the learner, not just telling them what you think, but helping them develop the ability to evaluate themselves.
So asking questions, prompting reflection.
Yes. Building that internal compass, that ability to self-critique and self-correct. That's the long-term goal, right? Autonomous learners.
Definitely. And the last one, number 7.
It emphasizes practice opportunities. Feedback shouldn't just look backward. It needs to connect to the future.
Like, okay, here's something to work on. Next week in clinic, let's focus on trying this specific approach.
Precisely. Linking the feedback directly to chances to practice and improve, it closes the loop.
So those 7 points are fantastic guidelines. Direct observation, specific, actionable, timely, limited, promotes self-assessment, and links to practice.
That's the checklist.
Okay, so how do you put this all together in an actual conversation? Is there a model or a framework?
There is. A really practical one is the Ask-Tell-Ask framework. I think it was Barnett back in 2001 who proposed it.
Ask, tell, ask. Okay, break that down for us. How does it work? That first ask seems crucial for setting the tone.
It really is. The first ask is all about getting the learner to reflect first. Kick things off with self-assessment.
Instead of just launching in with your critique.
Exactly. You might ask something like, how do you feel that procedure went? Or, can you walk me through your thinking on that case? What felt strong? What felt challenging?
So you're inviting their perspective right away. That probably lowers defensiveness.
It really does. It puts them in the driver's seat of their own learning.
Okay, so after they've reflected, then comes the tell. This is where we share our observations.
Right. This is where you bring in those characteristics we just talked about. Be specific. Use your direct observations. Offer both the positives and the constructive points.
And crucially, make it actionable, right? Not just, you seemed unsure, but maybe.
I noticed some hesitation when you were choosing the instrument. Let's review the criteria for selecting the right tool for that step. Specific observation, specific action.
Got it. Concrete, specific, balanced, and instructive.
And then you move to the final ask.
Which is about
planning next steps.
Yeah.
It closes the loop and reinforces their ownership. You ask questions like, so based on this, what's one thing you want to focus on improving next time?
Or what resources could help you with that? Maybe practice in the sim lab or reviewing that article.
Exactly. It prompts them to make a plan. It makes the feedback collaborative.
I like that framework. Ask, tell, ask. Seems very manageable and respectful. But there was a warning, right? About vague phrases.
Oh, yes. Super important. Palaganas mentioned this in 2021. Avoid just saying good job or poor performance on their own.
Why is that? We say good job all the time.
Because it doesn't tell the learner why it was good or what was poor. It offers no learning value by itself. You have to pair it with specifics.
So good job is okay if you follow it with, because you maintained excellent sterile technique throughout the entire procedure.
Exactly. The specific detail is what provides the actual feedback. The good job is just the positive reinforcement label. Same goes for constructive feedback.
That clarity makes a huge difference. So these resources from the UTHSC Teaching and Learning Center sound incredibly valuable for faculty wanting to hone these skills.
They really are a great hub for faculty development.
And if people want to explore more, what are a few specific things you'd recommend from their collection?
Well, there's a great article by Ramani and others from 2019 about creating a feedback culture with a growth mindset. Really links culture and individual mindset.
Sounds fascinating.
Also, the UTHSC TLC has its own webinar, Effective Feedback and Evaluation. Very practical.
Good for busy faculty. Any quick hits?
Yeah, their 5-minute university series is brilliant. Check out the ones on invite student feedback and giving and receiving feedback. Short, punchy, useful.
Perfect. And anything from outside the direct UTHSC resources, maybe?
You know, for a broader but very applicable take, Kim Scott's book, Radical Candor, is excellent. It's about being clear and direct, but also showing you care personally.
Yeah.
Very relevant to teaching relationships.
Great recommendations.
Yeah.
So just to recap, we've really covered the why, the where, and the how of effective feedback,
From its foundational importance to building the right culture.
to those 7 key characteristics, and finally, that practical ask, tell, ask model.
It really highlights that feedback is this powerful lever we have as educators.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And mastering it, well, it's an ongoing process, isn't it? Constant refinement.
Always. But incredibly rewarding when you see it make a difference.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Think about feedback, not just as correcting errors or praising success.
Think bigger.
Think about it as empowering your learners, helping them build that internal capacity to assess themselves, to problem solve, to become truly autonomous, self-improving professionals.
Which is ultimately what we're aiming for in healthcare education, preparing them for a career of continuous learning and excellence.
Exactly. Building that foundation for lifelong growth.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, we hope this deep dive gave you some valuable, actionable insights. We encourage you to explore those resources further.
Definitely worth your time.
Please join us next time for another deep dive where we'll tackle more complex topics, always aiming for those concise, comprehensive insights. Until then, keep learning and keep teaching effectively.